Yeah, it looks like it is. Yep. Yep. There we go. All right, I'm good.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah.
What's up, Dolphins fans? Training camp is back, and so are we. Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I'm Chris Perkins, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist. That's David Furones, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Dolphins writer, and we are talking football today. Yeah, baby, football is back. But before we talk football, we want to thank all of our viewers for joining us here today. We want to remind you to submit your thoughts, your questions, your comments via our live chat, where you can always find intelligent Dolphins opinions. Also, tune in to sunsentinel.com every day so you can see our Dolphins Deep Dive practice updates from me, David Furones, and Dave Hyde. And if you miss any part of this show, you can tune in to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcast. As I said, we're talking football today, baby, and we can talk football because Tua Tagovailoa has his contract extension. That's right. We don't have to talk dollar figures anymore. Jalen Waddle has his contract. We don't have to talk dollar figures with him anymore. But what does this mean for Tyreek? He said he wants a contract extension. We'll talk about whether Tyreek gets that contract extension and what it would mean to the Dolphins if he gets that contract extension. We're also going to break down what we've seen in training camp so far, the good and the bad, and we will talk about what we expect to see next week when the Dolphins have that all-important joint practice against the Atlanta Falcons. And in between all of that, we have an Olympic version of our always popular Furones bonus. What do you think about that, Furones?
Can't wait.
There you go, baby. There you go. Quoting Bart Scott. I like that. All right, baby. This show presents an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. All right, Furones. So we know that Tua got his contract extension, right? And really, that's a great thing for the Dolphins. I like the deal. I think most people probably like the deal and the way it's structured. 4 years, $212 million, $167 million guaranteed, $93 million fully guaranteed. They can get out of this contract, Furones, in 2027 with about a $20 million dead cap hit. So it's a good deal. Cap hits in 2024, 9.5 million. In 2025, 59.4 million. In 2026, 63.4 million. And in 2027, 45.4 million. Now that sounds like a lot, but again, it's a 3-year really deal that they can get out of in 2027. I like the deal, Furones. What do you think about this deal?
Yeah, it's the deal the Miami Dolphins had to give Tua Tagovailoa because, as Tua has told us, the market is the market. And this is what NFL quarterbacks are getting paid these days. 4 years, $212.4 million with $167 million of that guaranteed, the 93 fully guaranteed. That's in line with the other reported deals for top quarterbacks with a $53.1 million per year average annual value. That puts him right up there, actually fourth in that figure. But it's also one that allows the Dolphins to field a team around him, which I think is vital. It's a little under 21% of the new salary cap, which if you think of those deals at the time of signing, that's actually outside the top 10, number 12 by that measure, then the cap is only going to continue to go up. So now if Tua continues to be the quarterback he has been since Mike McDaniel arrived in Miami, you get away with a steal in years to come, assuming the cap continues to rise. So you already know you're going to have Jalen Waddle with him for years to come. You like Tua best when he has playmakers around him because, no, he's not Patrick Mahomes who can overcome a bunch of drops from his receivers and still win a Super Bowl. He's not Josh Allen who can lose all chemistry with Stephon Diggs and still steamroll defenders, taking it himself to lead the offense. He's not Lamar Jackson with those legs and his crazy deep ball. And that's all okay. He's Tua. He's a point guard at QB, and you want him to have weapons around him. And we all know the big concern is Tua's injury history, the concussions of 2 seasons ago, et cetera. Well, you're essentially locked in with him, as you said, for the next 3 years with the guarantees. There are ways out after 2026, going into 2027, if in the event that it goes awry with Tua and the Dolphins. So is it team friendly? Is it player friendly? Really, I think it's both. Works well for both sides. And makes me wonder why it took so long, and they didn't just agree on those figures much sooner. And you never really want, here's the other thing, you never really want to get to the point of franchise tags the next 2 years with your quarterback when it was already getting a little dicey, a little contentious this camp with Tua's participation levels, and he's seeing all his peers get the big money across the league. So get it done. I'm happy for both sides and the deal that both sides got.
Furones, I agree. I think this is a friendly deal for both player and organization. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask Mike McDaniel this, and not in a gotcha kind of way, but in a very curious kind of way. Mike McDaniel told us he's not getting involved in this contract situation, that this is an organization thing between the organization and Tua, and his role is kind of neutral. He's a coach. He worries about X's and O's. As Tua tells the story, Mike McDaniel did get involved. What I want to know is, what was it about that moment that made Mike McDaniel get involved? So this was supposedly after that Friday practice where Tua did not practice on Thursday. On Wednesday, Tua did 7-on-7, not 11-on-11. Thursday, Tua did nothing. Friday, Tua did everything and was looking good, like really looked good. Thursday, that offense was choppy. Friday, it looked good. What do you think it was in that moment? I'm guessing it was the difference between Thursday and Friday and the Atlanta practice coming up and preseason. But I'm guessing that's what spurred Mike McDaniel to do it. And also we heard the players after practice talking about you could feel the vibe. You could feel the energy when Tua was out there. Even first-year players like Kendall Fuller and Anthony Brooks. What do you think it was that got Mike McDaniel involved?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know so much about the timing. I mean, sure, you don't want this going on too deep into camp, and then it starts affecting the preseason preparation and preparation going into the season. But I think just generally, this is the quarterback that Mike McDaniel wants running his offense, which, let's recall, was number one last year in the league. And granted, it can perform better against top defenses in situational settings of short yardage, red zone, et cetera. But let this offense keep building with these guys together. The head coach you're trusting went to bat for this guy. So I think just generally it's a lot of work that was put in over the last 2 years to just throw it away and then say, well, then eventually we plan on starting over because we're not going to pay him the difference of a couple $1 million that maybe was up in the air in negotiations this year. So you don't want to start over, and especially when you have a win now, a team that's ready to win now, have it go down that road, or have to then put yourself in a position where you just take whichever quarterback is available in free agency, because not a lot of teams are letting go of the top quarterbacks.
Yeah. We want to say hello to Shake Money and Grandizer 12. Here's one from Grandizer 12. He says, Perk and Furones, dare we say it? Show me the money. Look, what did you think about Tua saying that? I was a little put off by it at first, but I'm not, because I know the spirit of what he was saying. He wasn't saying I'm rich. It was just an expression. And I do love that Tua gave us the background on that Mike McDaniel dared him to say it. But that's right, Bevel. Yes, Bevel. Did you catch? Were you a little taken by the "show me the money," or what did you think about it?
In the moment, I said, boy, Tua, who we know to be so humble, is just saying, show me the money out there in front of everyone. But it's a celebratory mood. It's the first day of training camp in front of fans. So Tua's grabbing the mic. And I think a lot of the fans there, they wanted to see him get paid. So they're there to celebrate with him after this happened. Now, if the deal hadn't gotten done before that momentous day of fans showing up for the first training camp, I think we were going to hear a lot of pay Tua a chance or something similar, of fans just urging the organization to get it done, especially if it would have gotten to the point where Tua, maybe that was why the timing was such. If it would have gotten to the point where it's the first practice that fans show up for and Tua is sitting out 11 on 11, could you imagine? I mean, if fans would have felt like, although these are free tickets, that they didn't get their money's worth going out there for the training camp practice. So it's a celebratory mood. Tua is celebrating with his fan base that wants to see him succeed and wants to see him make his money. So I think that's what it was all about. And of course, we have the backstory of Darrell Bevell daring him, saying, "You won't go up there and say, 'Show me the money.'" I don't even think Tua knew the Jerry Maguire reference. That was just what he heard Darrell Bevell was daring him to do, and he did it.
Yep. All right. So Raphael Courtright back again. Welcome from Banana. I won't read the first line. It says, y'all act like he won anything. Tua can make $1 billion a year and he's still a mid quarterback. And then from No B1, show me the playoff win. Here's my thing, Furones. Yeah, here's my thing. Now, Dak Prescott is in the same position, right? 2-6 in the playoffs, and I do agree with both of them that he's got to win some playoff games. But here's my thing about Tua: that listen, we've got to understand what we have here. And I'm not trying to put Tua down in any way, shape, or form. Tua is more Terry Bradshaw and Russell Wilson, meaning if you surround him with talent, you're going to go somewhere, than he is Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, meaning you can put middling players around him, he's going to make them better. There's nothing wrong with being a Terry Bradshaw or a Russell Wilson. I just think you have to face reality and understand what you have and build from there. You can't expect Tua to do Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes things. He's not that guy. There's no shame in that. You just have to know what you have. I hope that Mike McDaniel knows what he has. I hope that they decide to work within Tua's strengths rather than trying to make Tua a Superman. What do you think about that, Furones?
Yeah, for sure, that perspective. But then also, so you say, show me the playoff wins. Who's really winning in the playoffs outside of right now, Patrick Mahomes? I mean, even Josh Allen. Okay, Josh Allen would get a wild card win and then run into Patrick Mahomes and lose in a divisional round. One time, a few years back, geez, it feels like ages ago now. I think it was the COVID year. Got to an AFC Championship game, but I mean, even he has lost to Joe Burrow in the playoffs, and so I mean, Burrow, yeah, has had his playoff success too. But it's not really that many. Trevor Lawrence got one playoff win, but he looked terrible in the first half. I mean, practically lost him the game. And it was a Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Herbert playoff game. Something had to give. Tua's just 0-1 in the playoffs. And it was to Patrick Mahomes, who is running the league right now. So, but he does know that is the next thing. That's what he has to still prove, because he's got the year where he led the league in passing just last season. He's got the year 2 years ago now where he led the league in quarterback rating and yards per attempt. So he's been up there with the individual accolades, the stats. He knows, and he said it. He said as much when we spoke to him after getting this extension done. Is heavy as the crown. He knows now with this deal comes the expectations that he still needs to accomplish, which is now winning in the playoffs.
Yeah, Pete's Takes, welcome. Pete's Takes says, shut off win drought, or how about division titles? This is extremely embarrassing as a fan when all other 31 teams are laughing at us. Blessed day to all. Fins up. Furones, let me ask you this. I think that Mike McDaniel and Tua have been on sort of a scholarship so far, right? The fans love them, but, now that the money goes up, and it's the third year and the time goes up, right? The third year and the big contract, is the scholarship over now? So finish this sentence for me, Furones. If Mike McDaniel and Tua don't get a playoff win this season, then blank. Because nobody's going to lose their job. I think people will be pissed off, but right? I mean, but is the scholarship over? Will people be pissed off? Will people understand if there are injuries? If there's cold weather, do they get another scholarship year, do you think?
No, I think they have to win in the playoffs now. It's time to set some expectations, especially, and it's time first and foremost, before you get there, win the division over the Buffalo Bills. Okay, and enough of this. Once with Stephon Diggs out of there, with all the players that they had to cut as salary cap casualties, it's time to get over the Buffalo Bills. I don't care if in the betting odds the Bills are still technically favored, and yeah, they still have Josh Allen. Let's set some expectations, damn it. It's time to get over the Bills, get a home playoff win the division, be healthy come playoff time. So let's not run out all these excuses every year and then go 3 consecutive years saying, oh, well, we understand why they couldn't win. Well, no, at some point something's got to give, and you got to get over the Buffalo Bills hump and get a home playoff win so you don't have to go into a frigid Kansas City or a Buffalo without Tua playing. So put yourself in position and win in the playoffs now. It's now year 3 for Mike McDaniel, and Tua now he's getting paid like a top quarterback. So now take that next step to make sure it is totally within reason to have expectations and say, no, now there is pressure. You have to live up to these expectations.
Tom Sentinel says the team needs to win playoff games, not just Tua. Yeah. And you know what, Tom, to your point, and I've been saying this, that look, this is bigger than Tua. That I know that's kind of hard to understand in today's football because we say quarterback, but Tyreek has had some big drops, right, in big games. We've seen that, and Mike McDaniel has gone against the run, or they've had trouble getting the plays in on time. So we've seen all kinds of the top people have their flaws. Off the top of my head, Jalen Ramsey might be the most consistent in the big games. We've seen Tua have the late game interceptions. This is not just Tua. And you're Tom, the team needs to win. But to the quarterback point, Furones, you tell me if I'm wrong. Last year, Buffalo loses to Kansas City 27-24, right? And Stephon Diggs drops that pass, that wide. I mean, that he wasn't wide open, but it was a bomb. They could have been at around the Buffalo 25-yard line, and I think that drive resulted in that missed 44-yard field goal. But it goes back to, well, Josh Allen can't beat Patrick Mahomes. Josh didn't miss the field goal, and Josh didn't drop the pass, but I think that's kind of what's coming for Tua, right? That now the focus turns more on you as opposed to the team. That's what I think comes with the contract.
Sure. Unless, I mean, of course, and Josh Allen is always given the out because, 13 seconds in that one playoff game between the Chiefs and Bills, where it looked like the Bills had it, and then they just had to play 13 seconds of defense, and sure enough, the Chiefs get into field goal range, and then ended up winning in overtime. So yeah, and also for the reasons you mentioned in the last game. But I also don't get the perspective of saying, oh well, Josh Allen is this many plays away from being Patrick Mahomes, and because no, he would still have to win the ensuing playoff games. He would have still had to, like last year, go into Baltimore, which Patrick Mahomes did. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens were a monster. He would have started to win that game and beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. So, no, and also they were only going to tie, correct, with that field goal. So, against Kansas, against Kansas City. So, yeah, there still would have been defense had to be played. The Chiefs still had a chance, overtime, if anything. So, yeah, I mean, let's not go that far with giving Josh Allen too much credit. But, yes, the expectations will rise on Tua, especially come the postseason.
Troy says, from a business perspective, my issue with Tua's contract is the Fins competed with themselves. No one else was going to pay him what he received. I would disagree with that. What do you think, Troy? There's a lot of teams out there that, look, we see what Chicago did with Mitch Trubisky, doesn't work, toss him aside, get Justin Fields. Justin Fields doesn't work, toss him aside, you got Caleb Williams, right? We saw Arizona, Josh Rosen, toss him aside, we'll get Kyler Murray. I do think that there would be a market. The team who feels that their quarterback is failing would have paid Tua $60 million a year. What do you think, Furones? And look, Tua wasn't going anywhere. He'd have been franchise tagged, but what do you think about that, Furones?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this. I think teams would outside teams would maybe have to run similar system to want to that level. So yeah, but I mean, definitely. There's a lot of quarterback hungry teams, quarterback needy teams.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dolphins before this, when they went through 2 decades of not having a quarterback, yeah, easily. This is why you drafted them. If they were in a similar position, yeah, they would have taken Tua Tagovailoa, who was maybe comparable to a Russell Wilson years back. Coming off of Seattle stint, maybe not like peak Russell Wilson. He had some great years where he was like MVP conversation type, which Tua has been as well. But sort of like that in between when they were transitioning, where he wasn't as dependent on defense and the run game. So some similar qualities in their play style. Yeah, you would have had to run a similar system to him. Tua can't run the way Russell Wilson does, but he's trying to add that to his game. But yeah, I think someone else ultimately would have really gone. It's not like Tua would have been without a job or been a backup quarterback.
Right. What about this from Richard Thompson? At first, I was upset about Tua's contract, but now I'm happy because I realize it will actually accelerate the Dolphins' descent to a bad team, so they will be in position to pick a new quarterback. Richard, come on, man. Come on now. I'm not Tua-non, but I'm not anti-Tua either. Tua is a quality quarterback. Again, you just have to realize that he's not Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. And look, that's like, what, 99% of the quarterbacks in the league right now, right? I mean, only Aaron Rodgers would even be in that conversation right now, right, among active quarterbacks. So you work with what you have. Let's have realistic expectations. I mean, what do you think? Is the Tua contract going to lead? Are they going to regret the Tua contract? I think is what Richard is saying here.
Okay, yeah, this is the national media talking point.
Yeah.
I saw the regret word. No, yeah, I mean, regret would be pretty strong. But as we've mentioned, they have the out. It's basically 3 years. You already were going to have them for one of those years. And really, the next 2 are those seasons that you could have franchise tagged them anyways, if you were going to make him really upset and just keep doing it that way. So, I mean, basically, you're locked in through the next 3 seasons through 2026. So if it goes completely awry, as I've said, then you still have an out a couple years in. It solidifies Tua's going to be the quarterback as you try to win with this core that you have the next several seasons.
All right. Real quick here, Robert Bruce, welcome. Isaiah, welcome. Robert Bruce says, Miami, Jets, Buffalo, Patriots. In my opinion, that's how the AFC East is going to end up. Your thoughts on that, Furones, real quick? Miami, Jets, Buffalo, Patriots.
It could happen, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I might still put the Bills. I'd have the Bills ahead of the Jets. I do like the Dolphins to win the division this year if it goes the way I see it.
Isaiah says there are a couple of teams that run a West Coast offense similar to what Miami runs. There might be 4 teams that would have signed Tua, would have got his money regardless. Tua would have got his money regardless, I think. Yeah. So, all right. So let's move on to our second segment here. And we didn't even talk about Tyreek there, but that's all right. We will do that later. Stock up and stock down from week 1 of training camp, Furones. Who have been our hot players? Who have been our players who need to show us a little bit more? I can get the ball rolling here. Tua has been hot. Emmanuel Ogbah has been hot. Chop Robinson has been hot. So quarterback and 2 edge rushers. I would say Jalen Waddle, Zach Sealer, and Elijah Campbell also for some names that have been hot. Your thoughts or any other names?
Yeah, I like that list. So we've seen some potential candidates for edge rushing prowess with Chop Robinson coming in as the first-round pick, and he's looked really good. I mean, he was just my stock-up player this past practice, and that's over really an accumulation of several practices where he is winning constantly against different tackles that we've seen. So good from in the one-on-one setting. Still some questions maybe about setting the edge, but I think in some run-heavy periods, then even then you've seen him really set the edge and make some run game stops. So that's been really good to see. Emmanuel Ogbah, of course, 1 practice in, he gets the orange jersey for the next day. So good to see that because the Dolphins right now, they have Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb on the PUP list to start camp. And Jalen Phillips, maybe he's coming back a little bit sooner with his Achilles injury coming a month earlier than Bradley Chubb's ACL tear. But still, you might start the season without either one of them, and then maybe it's one or the other that starts. So you need some extra edge rushers. So good to see Emmanuel Ogbah. He had a strong offseason to lead to getting himself prepared for this training camp. That Chop Robinson right away has been one of the standout players. I mean, we've seen actually, like Quentin Bell, who you've mentioned also in your last column. Along with those guys. So good to see that you have some of these guys stepping up to the forefront. Grayson Murphy has been another one. He's shown some flashes as an edge rusher that could contribute. So, those guys. Jalen Waddle has been really one of the stars of camp because he's won some one-on-ones against Jalen Ramsey and just obviously, you know what Tyreek Hill is going to do. So he's been catching the deep balls. I know the wide receiver competition that they have, Tyreek Hill, I think his team, they draft teams of wide receivers under wide receivers coach Wes Welker's system to get points. And Tyreek Hill gets the first pick. He drafts River Craycraft because he does all the right things that coaches love, like the blocking, and he's fundamentally sound. So he gets a lot of points under the scoring system. And then Waddle takes Braxton Berrios, and he was telling us that Tyreek Hill's team is actually a little bit ahead of his right now. But Waddle has really been carrying his squad, I'm sure, because he's been really one of the top performers of camp so far.
No B1. Quentin Bell. Yes, that's right. Here's one for you, Furones, from Troy. Is Duck storming the pass game in practice? Louisville is anxious for any news. If you follow Furones on Twitter, you will know when Storm Duck makes a play.
Yeah. I've got this AI image of a fierce-looking duck making a splash with some stormy weather behind him for Storm Duck for any play he makes. So you'll see that image anytime I see him he had a pass breakup just last practice, and the one before saw him look good on a run to the outside, just close it out and send the back to the sideline for either no gain or a tackle for loss. So, he's shown some flashes for sure.
Grandizer 12 says your beard is on point. So there's that. There's that.
Was that for me or for you? I think
that's for you. No, that's for you. That's for you.
Thank you.
Furones' beard is on point. Just saying. Furones, let's go with these edge rushers real quick because that's a point of emphasis, something we're watching. Quentin Bell and Grayson Murphy being kind of the unknowns. Mo Camara he's flashed. He's flashed at times, but with Chop and Emmanuel Ogbah, and we know the situation with Chubb and Phillips, how much of this can we believe right now? Because Teron Armstead is not in there. Austin Jackson, limited reps. We've seen Patrick Paul struggle some one-on-one against Chop Robinson, but I think Patrick Paul probably give him a C right now through 6 practices. But how much of this pass rush success, edge rushing success, do you believe will translate into the regular season? What are you seeing right now that's real?
Yeah, obviously once they get to games and they'll face some strong tackles. Like right now the Dolphins don't really have Teron Armstead out there participating in team drills. So Austin Jackson is a better one who's not getting beat the same way, but it might be like Patrick Paul getting beat, might be a Keon Smith. Kendall Lamb is going to hold his own as well, but still, like a backup swing tackle in that regard. So they'll face some tougher pass protectors there. So that'll be the question: is can this translate? But it's encouraging to see where they are right now. At this level early in camp. So encouraging. If there was no pass rush, and then you're really worrying, then Mike McDaniel, who does not have any timelines placed on Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, might start to hurry one of them back. I'm kidding, of course. He takes that very seriously. But, there would be some eagerness brewing to get them back if we're not seeing what we are seeing in camp. And also, let's have a moment for these inside linebackers. Let's have a moment for these inside linebackers, too, with Jordan Brooks has looked good in camp, and obviously David Long started on PUP, so he's got to ramp up a little bit. So, but we kind of know what we have in him from watching him last year. But yeah, Anthony Walker had the orange jersey one practice, and then we've seen him miss a couple of days since. So hopefully he's all right. And then also Zeke Vandenberg, who missed last year. I think he's shown some flashes too, some physicality, pass coverage, a little thump over the middle, fitting into a zone really well, and he coming in on the blitz, run stops as well.
Yep, he has. Let's talk about who's been off to a slow start. Jalen Ramsey. I'm not worried about that, and really let's be specific. Only against Jalen Waddle, right? Because I think Ramsey has not had a problem with anybody else. It's only been against Waddle, but I'm not worried about Jalen Ramsey. He's a future Hall of Famer. He has been off to a slow start, but I'm not worried about him. Jonnu Smith, Jack Driscoll, Chris Brooks. I don't recall hearing Marcus May a whole lot. And am I mistaken that there's been 6 orange jerseys or 5, but Jeff Wilson's the only offensive player to get it, right? Elijah Campbell had it. Anthony Walker had it. Emmanuel Ogbah had it. And
Jordan Brooks was one.
Jordan Brooks, yes, that's right. But what do you think about the guys off to slow starts? Jonnu Smith, Driscoll, Brooks, May?
Zach Sealer had one. So
Zach Sealer, that's right. That's it.
5 of the 6 were defensive players. So only Jeff Wilson on offense.
Yep.
But what was the question, sorry?
So the guys off to slow starts, Jonnu, Jack Driscoll, Chris Brooks, Marcus May, maybe there's 1 or 2 others, or anybody that Jonnu has had a couple of vet days of rest. He had a couple of drop passes. Worried or not? He's a vet, not a big deal.
Yeah, I think ultimately he'll be all right, but yeah, you don't want to see that problem persist. So one of the drops just yesterday, I think, was a little bit behind him, but still, something that make the catch too, because Tua didn't want to lead him too much into the safety. So that's one where, you can slow down, you can turn your body and make the catch, even though it is a little bit behind him. And that's, I know receivers don't like to have to turn and slow down on their route. But if not, then he's getting drilled in a real game setting by the safety. So, Jalen Ramsey, of course, I'm not concerned about. It's been, yes, the one-on-ones are designed for the offensive player to win. They have the whole field, the whole side of the field to work with. And, yeah, you're going up against Jalen Waddle, so that's a tough matchup. But yeah, even then, there has been some back and forth in that matchup. Jalen Ramsey won one the other day, and then Jalen Waddle got the other 2 in the red zone one-on-ones. And Jalen Ramsey also in 11-on-11, that first Tua bomb to Tyreek Hill, he was on coverage on that side. I don't know what his assignment was, but I think it probably also had something to do with that he hadn't thrown an 11-on-11 pass. So Jalen Ramsey, who we know will take the liberty to guess on some plays and freelance a little bit when he gets bored out there, like they're not throwing his way, then he might have been doing that on that play. And then Tua said, all right, well, yeah, I haven't thrown a pass. Here, I'm handing it off again. Nope, play action, and Tyreek Hill's wide open, deep over the top. So, again, I don't know his assignment on that play, but he was the nearest defender of no one who was near Tyreek Hill on that one. But we know who Jalen Ramsey is. And I just wrote about new center Abram Brewer. You mentioned Jack Driscoll, but really all the centers have had snapping mishaps because then they tried out Ireland Brown there, and Andrew Meyer has had snapping mishaps. So some of these undrafted rookie linemen who, based on what we're saying, will be roster long shots, especially since we kind of know who the linemen are, the veteran linemen that sort of have their spots a little bit solidified, unless they look really bad in camp. But yeah, it seems to be consistent across all centers. But Abram Brewer, he needs to get his snapping chemistry down with Tua. Although I think he will be a great fit, as I wrote in my most recent story from yesterday's training camp practice. So a good scheme fit for him, but needs to get the snaps down with Tua. And Teron Armstead, although he's not a center, I did ask him about that. He said he's been talking to them about it, and he thinks sometimes a quarterback working with a new center has to get used to the snap point that that Tua likes to catch and catch the ball from, especially under center, and that the center, Brewer in this case, snaps to on his body. So sort of have to get that down together. It just takes time. So If it persists deep into camp, then that'll be an issue. But Mike McDaniel's not too concerned at this point.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys asked Teron about that, because I'm going to try to write about that next week. I did talk to Liam Eichenberg and Aaron about it. Eichenberg said the first thing is getting the quarterback's cadence, because that's always really tough. The second thing is hand placement, where the quarterback likes, you to put your hands. And he said the third thing is trying to get off the line of scrimmage quickly. He said because you're snapping the ball and you're trying to take your first few steps with your hands with your hand between your legs, and it's kind of awkward. You have to get used to it. You remember Liam? He came in the Denver game last year when Connor Williams got hurt. He played the entire Buffalo game for the first time in his career, NFL career, at center. And the other thing that Liam said that I thought was interesting, he said you're always trying to be the first one off the ball on the snap. And I said, well, the left tackles are usually the first. He goes, and refs give him a little bit of a cushion there. And Liam laughed and he goes, yeah, I always try to beat Teron. He goes, when I snap, I'm looking down. I'm always seeing do I beat Teron off. So good look, like little insight there. I'm going to try to write that column next week. By the way, Peter McDowell, welcome, baby, from Toronto. He says, welcome back, guys. Big shout out from Toronto. Perk, hope to see you at training camp next week, as finally making it down to Miami. Definitely. Shout out at me. I'll definitely come talk to you. Shake Money, Perks, the Fonz look is on point. All you need is a leather jacket. You said it. I understood it. That tells how old we both are, Shake Money. Do you understand that, Furones?
I know Happy Days. I watched.
All right. That's good. All right.
It was called TV Land, right? Or no, not TV. No. Well, Nick at Night.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon as a kid, and then once you get deeper into the night, and I was always going to bed late, and then Happy Days is on, or like Brady Bunch, the Wonder Years.
Yep. There you go, baby. There you go. All right, good deal. God bless reruns. No B1 says I am worried about OBJ, really hoping for a viable third receiver. Are you worried at this point, Furones?
No, it's too early. I mean, it's slightly concerning that Odell Beckham Jr. You thought you had him coming in, and then he's dealing with stuff that was pre-existing apparently, and now you don't have him early in camp. You want to see him get that chemistry, but it'll be a new system for him, so you do want to see him get in pretty soon here. But he's a veteran as well, so I'm sure it won't take him too long. And the last thing you want is for him to get hurt.
Right. Troy says, with all the bad snaps, it sounds like the center position is off to a slow start. This was a problem last year, and maybe both years, right, with Connor Williams in camp. But it turned out not to be a problem. They did have that one snap against the Chargers, right, deep in Chargers territory last year in the opener. They lost a fumble around the 2-yard line, but they ended up winning the game. I think it's going to work itself out. Here's a bigger one from Scott Pro, Furones. You take this one. How bad is Wsquad? Will he be ready for the start of the year? We need him as the left guard bad.
Well, that's the thing about it, is that this is now we're going. How long has it been? 9 months? Because it was October, and pretty soon we'll be hitting 10 months. It was October last year in Philadelphia when he went out with the quadriceps injury, and quads get injured less than a lot of other body parts. So I guess tough to compare. I don't have like good comparisons for quadriceps recovery compared to other precedents for it. But it's been a while. And I remember back then that mid-season news conference coming back from Philadelphia. I remember watching it from the airport. You were already back in Miami, and hearing Mike McDaniels say the long recovery that Isaiah Wynn has ahead of him, and we didn't know that it meant this long, that it would go into the training camp 2024. We assumed, it's probably out for the season, but then got to OTAs and mini camp, still didn't see him there, and then early in training camp, still on PUP. We've seen him around as far as just getting work done while the team was practicing. I saw him walking with Teron Armstead going inside one of the team stretch periods as they were working on. So hopefully soon here. Yes, right now, then you're looking at the other guards to win those spots if you can't get Isaiah Wynn incorporated rather quickly here.
And Furones, we don't even know for a fact that it's the quad, do we? I mean, I don't think anybody has checked with Mike McDaniel that it's the same injury. I think we're kind of assuming, but we probably need to double check. Has anybody? I don't think we have we?
Okay, so I asked Mike McDaniel just generally about Isaiah Wynn just the other day, and so I mean that would have been a good idea is to get is it still the quad? I mean, maybe it was something else came up. That is true. All
right, we'll put that on our list for Mike McDaniel. Rob G says, I think we're going to see a difference in our physicality of play and mental. This has been a big deal for a lot of people, myself. Omar Kelly wrote about it in the Miami Herald the same day that I did. Furones, I like the players that they brought in. Jordan Brooks, Aaron Brewer, Jordan Poyer, Saran Neal, Jonnu Smith. These guys have a physicality about them. Supposedly, you were there yesterday. What did the Jalen Ramsey discussion? Tell me about. I think that their physicality will improve this year. What do you think? What did Jalen Ramsey tell us about that?
Yeah, that was cool to find out. Jordan Brooks mentioned it, and Jalen Ramsey offered an impassioned speech, saying essentially the Dolphins are going to be the bullies now. They're not going to get bullied anymore. And then we see the physicality sort of ramp up in the last training camp practice that we saw. Have a little bit of a fracas going on, which is interesting. A couple of young guys, Jalen Wright as a rookie, getting into it with Kader Kohu, and then Patrick Paul. Big Patrick Paul, who's a gentle giant, but he goes to bat for his fellow rookie on the offense. Yeah. He picks up Kader Kohu in all of this, who's got a 130-pound advantage on him, Paul does to Kohu, and he's about to suplex him, and I think kind of midway he realized, wait, this is my teammate too, let me not slam him to the ground. So I guess it was sort of like in practice. During training camp, you have these would-be sacks, like you're not tackling to the ground. So it was like a would-be suplex, kind of mid-throw. He realized, wait, I shouldn't really slam this guy. He sort of soft released him and still tossed him a bit. But Patrick Paul's $1 strong guy, so you don't want to get on his bad side, even though he's such a nice kid too. But you saw that. And Jalen Ramsey giving it to the guys, and Jordan Brooks brings that kind of attitude. Yeah. David Long already does. So Aaron Brewer for the snapping miscues that I think will get fixed over time. I think he's going to be a fine center for this team based on his prerequisite abilities that fit well in the outside zone scheme, getting to the outside, his athleticism. So, they have some dogs on this team.
Here's a couple of things. Let me go with three straight things on quarterback. B Stuck the Poet on 3rd and 1 practice play yesterday where Tyreek ended up converting. What did you notice about Tua? Was he comfortable? Did the play come in on time? Was he able to make an audible? Walt Dog 1234 says, Tank for Tua fans win again. 3 more years of not being in the AFC dance or Super Bowl. And then Peter McDowell says, do you guys think we may look to bring in a veteran backup QB? Hearing Mike White inspires not much confidence in his play if we needed to rely upon him. So take it from the top. Does Tua are you seeing a change in him at the line of scrimmage? Did he audible on that play? Is he making leaps in that fashion? The Tank for Tua fans, do they have anything to say? And is Mike White, does he look capable? Talk about the quarterback position.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're audibling in these sessions. I mean, maybe Tua has the freedom. It's a practice, so I think they want to practice a play that they send in there. But he looked very comfortable taking that play action after they had one run in the 3rd and 1 situation. Then next one they go play action, rolls a little bit and hits Tyreek very much in stride, very smooth. Mike White. We know it's not like he's. First of all, we didn't even really see him last year because Tua was healthy the whole time. So what would he really be in a game? I mean, sure, it's not like is he one of the top backup quarterbacks? I mean, maybe he's in the middle of the backup quarterback rankings across the league, if you even were to go team by team with a lot of guys that you probably haven't even seen in a game. But I don't think the Dolphins necessarily need to move on from him. I know there's some salary cap benefits to it, but I think they would have done that already earlier in camp. So I think now, or earlier in the offseason, now you already have him in camp. So there wouldn't be any reason to move on at this point. With someone who knows the offense now, was in a similar offense with the Jets, and then with Mike LaFleur over there. So also same coaching tree as McDaniel. And so I think that was part of the reason why he was brought in. And a guy who can give you a great backup quarterback game, as we've seen him do a couple times with the Jets. Maybe he could go up and down a bit, but still capable when he is called upon.
All right. Cap for Life, welcome. Francisco Ghazi, welcome. Let us move on to the most anticipated segment of this show. It is the Furones bonus.
Oh, the Furones bonus.
I love it, baby. I love it. All right. So this is our patriotic Olympic version of the Furones bonus, and it goes like this. Could the Dolphins win an Olympic medal in either or both events, flag football and the 4x100 meter relay in these Olympics? So you guys know that flag football is going to be an Olympic sport in 2028 in Los Angeles. But could the 2024 Dolphins win an Olympic medal in flag football and or the 4x100 meter relay? Furones, take it away, baby.
All right, let's start with flag football. Yes, absolutely, the Dolphins would medal, probably win the whole thing. The Dolphins would damn sure have the best flag football roster out of any NFL team. But also, what's the format in this hypothetical scenario? Is it by country, right? I mean, Dolphins themselves, Miami Dolphins, if you made them one country, would definitely win an NFL flag football competition, I think, among other teams. And then they would really beat the best of any other countries, any other country's best. They got that. So, I mean, look what happened in an actual flag football game, the Pro Bowl, when Tua and Tyreek were starting. They hooked up immediately for a long touchdown. You give Tyreek, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle all this space to work with, forget it. Plus, you have Jalen Ramsey on defense. Ultimate chess piece there. Would love to see him in that 7-on-7 flag football setting. Similar with Javon Holland as a safety. Move him around in a flag football game with his range. Jalen Phillips, when healthy, he would get to the quarterback so quickly. You might get tested a little bit with coverage from the linebackers against speedy backs and tight ends. So maybe you could fine-tune the roster there. I think if you have an American team, you could pick from another roster too. And I'd love to see Mike McDaniels' creativity in that setting too.
Okay, let me ask you this: what about Dallas? Dallas could maybe. They got the corners, they got Dak, they got CeeDee Lamb, they got Brandon Cooks, Micah Parsons. Could Dallas give them a run in flag football?
Yeah, well, Micah Parsons. I mean, they could give him a run, but I'd still take a Tyreek Waddle combination plus Achane and Mostert out of the backfield. The things you can do. Also, John Smith would be a nice flag football tight end as well. So I mean, his run after catch ability. Red zone gives you a red zone target once you get down there. So, now, especially with his incorporation. And I mean, there's at different positions, there's other players that you can pick from another team and say, oh, that roster would really be fine-tuned if you slide him in there. But, I mean, among NFL teams, yeah, for sure. And we go to 4x100 too. Well, if we're comparing to other NFL teams, sure, I'd say the Dolphins would win with the team speed they have, but they're not up there with actual Olympic sprinters in pure speed. But yeah, we see it from these guys populating nearly the entire top 10 of fastest speeds clocked in games as ball carriers. And that's without even counting the guys that don't factor into that, like Ethan Bonner with his speed, Anthony Schwartz. These guys were on the practice squad last year. Schwartz, I actually covered his track career in high school, and he was the fastest athlete in the nation as a high school sprinter, his age group, when he was at American Heritage. Obviously, he had to focus on making it in football after that at Auburn and then getting drafted to the Browns. But, again, Dolphins best 4x100 in the league. So would win an NFL competition, but can't hang in the Olympics against world-class sprinters that train specifically for this. The NFL players, of course, they also need to bulk up a little bit for the sport they play.
Right. So to put a bow on this, because look, we saw what happened to Tyreek, right, when he ran in a race. He was what, 6th or whatever. Who are the 4 that are on your Dolphins team? Because you could have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Ethan Bonner, Anthony Schwartz, Jalen Wright, Savon Ahmed. Who are the 4 that make your cut?
Okay, Tyreek definitely. He makes it on there. All right, Achane's got to be on there as well. So there's 2. I'm not going to go by the legs in the race. Anthony Schwartz needs to be there because he actually has a track background. And he would anchor that 4x100 of American Heritage that's set. I'm starting to remember now, but I was covering the high school state championships. I believe they set a state record where he was actually Tyson Campbell was on that team, the Jacksonville Jaguars cornerback that also was a high school football teammate of his at American Heritage. He was on that team as well, and Patrick Surtain II too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was over there running track. I think he might have been the first one, and had someone else there that I can't recall right now. Loaded high school talent there. So I got 3 of them. So I'm definitely going Tyreek, Achane, and Schwartz.
And Raheem ran track in college, right?
And and I was considering Bonner, but I think you got to go Raheem. You got to go Raheem for the same reason, and also that he has that speed.
Yep. All right. So there you have it, baby. There you have it. Our Furones bonus, baby. Furones bonus. All right, Furones. So let's go down to our final segment here, and it's the joint practice against Atlanta / what are you looking for next week? The Dolphins have joint practices against Atlanta on Tuesday and Wednesday, right? And then they're off Thursday. The game is Friday night at Hard Rock Stadium, the preseason opener. Joint practice is where the veterans get their most work. And so we're going to see some interesting matchups. Atlanta has Michael Penix at the rookie quarterback. They've got Kyle Pitts at tight end. They've got Bijan Robinson at running back. So we're going to see some interesting head-to-head matchups. What are you looking for specifically next week as far as we know the Dolphins aren't going to be in tip-top shape, but what are you looking for? Because for me, I want to see some kind of timing between Tua and Tyreek and Jalen. I want to see the seeds of that, going. I want to see, what Teron looks like. I want to see what Austin Jackson looks like. I want to see the interior offensive and defensive lines. That's probably number 1 for me, actually, the interior offensive and defensive lines. What are you looking for, Furones?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's joint practices. That's the time when you start getting those real matchups where you got guys hitting and going up against another team finally. So, yeah, it's always a great time to see some of those one-on-ones, especially offensive line against defensive line. So compare against another team's linemen and see who's winning those matchups. So especially like interior offensive linemen had a pretty good day just yesterday in those one-on-ones. In drills, so now get to see Falcons and like a go against a Grady Jarrett or on the edge like a Lorenzo Carter over there. Different guys that they have, and you know what? Now the Falcons. So now this is my 4th training camp covering the Dolphins. I started in 2021, coming over from the UM beat. So 3 of those years, the Falcons come here for joint practices and a preseason game. Can we get like one trip to Atlanta out of this? We never visit Atlanta. So they're always coming here for some reason. We do get to go back to Tampa later after we did that a couple years ago. So there will be that. Washington coming down to Miami in between. But every one of those joint practices, Kyle Pitts at tight end is always a big thing, and how the Dolphins match up, because we know the Dolphins historically they give up a lot to tight ends, and then now whether it would be like seeing Javon Holland go against them at safety, or how some of the linebackers cover in that setting. And now actually I'm wondering, because Jalen Ramsey, he was injured last year this same time from that second day of training camp knee injury. Now will Anthony Weaver be willing to move him around and say, all right, our ultimate chess piece, when it goes against the Atlanta offense, it's going to go where we place him in front of Kyle Pitts in that setting. Of course, we probably won't see Kirk Cousins, or maybe we do. I don't know. Is he coming back? But Bijan Robinson is one of the weapons that you have to watch there. Drake London, the young wide receiver. Yeah. So maybe you need to keep Jalen Ramsey out there, but maybe moving him around. If Ramsey can sometimes cover Pitts, sometimes is on London. If you can keep Kendall Fuller out there on London, then that'll be interesting to see all those things. Of course, we can't get too specific on scheme once we get to covering them, but if there are some highlights in those matchups, then you end up finding out anyway if Jalen Ramsey deflected a ball that was intended for Kyle Pitts. Well, he was covering him there. So.
Yep. Mark Heavy, welcome. Who else did I want to say welcome to? Jay Slim, welcome. Patrick Stotler, welcome. Mark Heavy says, calm down, everyone. Let's at least watch one preseason game before we replace OBJ or Mike White. I agree with the calm down thing. Here's one for that I think is good. Patrick Stotler with the offensive line questions, who is out there to help? Let me say this on that, Furones. I do think that they have three interior offensive line starters currently on the roster. I think if you start Aaron Brewer at center, Liam Meikenberg at left guard, Robert Jones at right guard, you're going to be good enough. None of them are probably going to make the Pro Bowl, right? You don't have a Teron Armstead there. But I think that you are going to be good enough. I think with Lester Cotton as a backup, that's good. I don't know what Jack Driscoll is, but, as far as the other backups on the offensive line at tackle, Kendall Lamb and Patrick Paul. So this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I'm not sure that before the opener you need to go outside this roster to find the 8 guys who are going to be up on the active roster for the opener against Jacksonville on September 8th. What do you? Am I crazy, Furones? What do you think?
Yeah, no, and I'd probably flip the guards too with Robert Jones, maybe a left guard, Liam Meikenberg at right guard. But I think similar to last year with the need at right tackle and Chris Greer saying you guys are way more worried about it than we are, and Austin Jackson turned out to be all right. And I think Butch Berry gets those guys ready on the offensive line. So. The interior offensive linemen have shown some flashes so far, and then maybe you get the boost of Isaiah Wynn if he is able to come back. Actually, when we mentioned him, then I looked up the quote, and then we moved on. But because we have seen Isaiah Wynn around, but not necessarily practicing. But Mike did tell us that he is in the building every day and is diligent about his process and been working. Progressing to come back, but that it's he said I'll give you an update when it's a little clearer. So still not, really doesn't seem imminent as far as our return to practice for him. So still looking out for him, but but then once he comes back, then that he could get incorporated as well.
Jay Slim says, is there anything good? Chris Brooks, ground and pound running back. He's off to a slow start. I really like Chris Brooks, and I wish that they'd have played him late last season. He came back, I believe, for the last 3 games. He was out with the knee and ankle injuries for a while. He might have gotten hurt against Denver or whatever it was. But he's had a dropped pitch on a run play and a drop pass that same practice that hit him right in the chest. So he's off to a rough start. I would like to see him catch fire, and I would like to see them use him, right, Furones? You could use him in short yardage situations.
Yeah, and he's also kind of that backup to Alec Ingold as well, because he can play the fullback as well, or like a versatile role. It's somewhat in between. But Jeff Wilson is ahead of him as far as the more physical runner, where Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, and Jalen right now as the rookie 4th-round pick are going to get roster spots. So it's basically, it kind of comes down to Savon Ahmed we haven't seen yet as far as very little actually, but he's been sitting out a lot of practices, and then he showed up very briefly in a team period, and Jeff Wilson's ahead of him. He got an orange jersey one day. He's got the chemistry and rapport with Mike McDaniel and his system, and he slimmed down a little bit so he could still be a strong power runner, but now he can move better to the outside in this wide zone scheme. So I think Jeff Wilson right now is ahead of him to earn that 4th running back spot. And then maybe it's a matter of, okay, can the Dolphins keep Chris Brooks and a Savon Ahmed, after waivers and such to get them on the practice squad, or then once we have an injury at the running back position to get them on.
Francesco says, love you guys. Tua will pull a LBJ in the sense that he will turn up post payday. Or LJ8, I'm sorry. I'm looking at LJ8, Lamar Jackson. LJ8 in the sense that he will turn up post payday. Yeah. I'm sorry, I read that wrong.
So MVP Tua coming.
Yeah. Look, I could see. Well, here. Let me ask you this, Furones. Do we know what Tua is? I think we do. I think after 4 years, you know what a person is, what a player is. Now, I think that he is what we've seen the last 2 years. And last year, he was the 29 and 14, right? 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I think that's probably about what Tua is, and the 4,000 yards passing, 100 passer rating. Yes, he can have a season where he has 35 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. But I think that Tua is the guy that we've seen the last 2 years, and that's a Pro Bowl quarterback. What do you think that we know who Tua is, Furones?
Yeah. I mean, especially in this system with Tyreek Hill, with Jalen Waddle, and then now, assuming you get Odell Beckham incorporated at a certain point here, you add Jonnu Smith with Durham Smythe at tight ends, and the weapons out of the backfield that I think Devon Achane is going to get more opportunities catching the ball. He mentioned lining up a receiver going back to the offseason and mini camp. So, there's so much to love about the prospect of Tua playing that point guard role in this system with the guys that he has.
All right, we are going to wrap it up on this one from Noel B1. Do we really expect the AARP members on this team to be available in December? That is a great question. I actually want to do a column on whether this load management program works, because the NBA came out and said load management doesn't work. So you don't need to put all these snaps on the legs of Teron Armstead and Raheem Mostert right now, right, in July and August. But does it do anything to preserve them in December and January? I don't think it does necessarily. I think it puts them in the right mindset, but I'm not sure what you do right now is going to have a direct effect on what happens in December and January. It's definitely better than doing nothing, and you're doing the best that you can with the research that you have. But I just, again, a lot of these injuries that the Dolphins have had the last 2 years haven't necessarily been wear and tear, right? Tua wasn't wear and tear. Tyreek wasn't wear and tear. That was a horse collar tackle. Jalen Phillips, Jerome Baker, Bradley Chubb. So I agree with what they're doing, but I'm not necessarily sure that one equates to the other. What do you think?
Sure, and it'll be debated, of course. If we have another December where half of one side of the football is out with injury, and then it's always that, another year of the excuse, well, this is why they couldn't win the wild card game, and this is why we still don't have a playoff win, then, it's only so many years that could happen, and you just accept the results of, it's okay because they had so many injuries, and so that's why we just brush it off and say everything's all right with having a bunch of guys injured and you don't win a playoff game because of it. So, it'll have to be analyzed. If all of that happens again, and we're still trying to hear the same narrative of, the injuries again, so that's why it's just all bad luck, then you'll really have to start to take a look. If it just keeps going on every December and that's why you can't win come the end of the season and come the postseason, then you'll really have to start to take a look at that. Because then there's also the debate of the other side. Are you better off just having that greater acclimation, that build up to those games? And it's a lot less drastic of a ramp up if you have your body in shape for it and prepared for it. Then once you get into games and you have to play like a 70 snap game or something, and all of a sudden, these injuries start popping up. So, a lot of it is bad luck. But then if you have bad luck for so many consecutive years, then maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with the approach you're taking.
We're going to end on this one from Trinity Soundworks. I know I said that we were going to end before, but I like the question, and I've come around on this one. Trinity Soundworks says Tua cannot impose his physical will on any down or distance, nor any series or downs, nor any quarter, much less a game. He does not make others around him better. Why did we pay him? I think you paid him for this. To me, you need a union of coach, player, and scheme to make things work at the maximum, at the optimum. And I think that's what the Dolphins have here with Tua, Mike McDaniel, and this scheme. Your offensive line doesn't have to maintain blocks. You take advantage of Tua's anticipation, his quick release, his accuracy, the speed of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, Mike McDaniel's pre-snap motion to get guys open. It all works together. They're all made for each other in this system, and I think that's why you're paying Tua, not because you think he's Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, but because he works very well for this coach in this system. Furones, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great answer, Perk, and that would be a great place to leave it off. But we're actually going to take one more question. I got no, I'm not.
That's you know me so well, Furones. You know me so well. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us. It was a great show. We will see you guys at some point in the future. We will keep you updated on social. We're going to come out with a schedule for this show. But until we see you again, thanks for joining us. Perkins, that's David Furones. This is Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk on SunSentinel.com.